Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data Show. Today we have an amazing guest, the data doc himself, Tom Redman. What can you tell us about Tom Redman?
Tom Redman is the data doc.
Yes, he is.
He's president of Data Quality Solutions. He helps startups and multinationals, senior executives, chief data officers, and leaders buried deep in their organization chart their courses to data-driven futures with special emphasis on quality and analytics. He is the author of many amazing articles in the Harvard Business Review, one of them being Data's Credibility Problem. He has a PhD in statistics and 2 patents as well. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Tom Redman.
Hello, Tom.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So, Tom, what is missing from the data programs?
Yes. Well, first of all, George and Deanna, thank you so much for having me. It's always great to be on your program. The question, what's missing in data programs? The short answer to that is people, and the long answer to that is people. Right? And I think that on your telecast today, what we ought to talk about is we ought to talk about how we came to this discovery, right? Why it's so important, and a couple of implications of it. Mm-hmm. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce a very important group of people that everybody, I assume most of our listeners and viewers are people in the data space, but I want to introduce this group of people because they are so important to our future. And so we had a little bit of trouble with the slides, but if you could pull up my first slide. I mean, this group we call the data generation, and I'd like to start out and talk a little bit about this slide. So if you could go to the second slide, and
do it.
And again, apologies to viewers for me not being technically aware of what I needed to do here. But so the data generation is a group of people. It's not a group that you can send in $20 or 20 euros or yen or anything like that and get a membership card. You earn your membership in this group through deeds, not words, and not money. And the 2 important deeds are seeking the facts. And the second is using those facts to make things better. Now, you may be using those things to make the whole world better. You may be using those facts to make things in your company better. You may be using them to make things in your personal life better, right? Anybody who is using data, seeking the facts, trying to find truth, and get the data right, and then apply those facts, qualifies as a member of the data generation. Now, most listeners are probably, people with data in their titles, and they're going to say, yeah, I do that, of course. And indeed, people with data in their titles, most of them, I think, would meet these qualifications and be members. But the real heart and soul of the data generation is people without data in their titles. Let me give you some examples. So a grandmother shows up at a school board meeting, and the school board is discussing whether or not to approve a bond issue, and people are going to have to vote. And she steps up and she says, well, what is this really going to do for the kids? What is it really going to do for our property taxes? How do we know it's going to work? And she stays on them. She pushes the school board, the politicians on the school board, to start telling the truth, right? So lead to accountability in politics at that level. A second member, so I don't know about you, but I've talked to, thousands of people about their work over the course of my career. And almost every single one of them has had an idea for how to make things better at work. Okay, and I see you're smiling, so you know this to be the case. Well, so most people just kind of grouse about it, right? So management doesn't get it, one thing or another. But people in the data generation see the opportunity to test their ideas, to gather some data, do a current state versus my idea, kind of an A/B comparison, and gather some data to prove or disprove that their idea improves their team's performance. And if it does, then they're taking it forward. Okay, they're getting the facts, they're using those facts to make things better. The third example member is the manager who gets to the bottom of all those conflicting reports. And so we all know about this, right? Any manager at any level is looking at 3 reports, and one of them says we have X customers, and one of them says Y, and one of them says Z, and those numbers are very, very different. Mm-hmm. And so rather than rationalizing that in their brain, this manager gets to the bottom of these conflicting reports, solves the problem. It may be a definitional problem or whatever it is. Now,
it makes them consistent and repeatable,
right? And hopefully correct, right? So more correct. Now look, I realize that for most people, data is really, really scary. And maybe for some, statistics was their least favorite class in college. They're just a little bit afraid to do this. But one of the things that's so important is that people get over their fears, and maybe they just use data to make decisions in their better decisions in their personal lives, or whatever it may be, right? But we have to acknowledge that most people have to get over their fear, all right? And it is very important. It is not just at work. This is a concept in your personal life. If you can use more data to better chart how your kid is doing in school, and figure out whether there's a trend that you need to worry about, or that last bad Spanish test was just an outlier kind of thing, then you're a member and you're making things better. And all of us with data in our title, we need to make the data generation as large and as diverse and as inclusive as we possibly can. And so I'm really focusing on these people. This is where the future in data lies. It's not to say that the latest technology is not important, but the future is in data. You asked me what's missing. People. The future is in people, and the people who step up as members of the data generation have.
That's lovely.
Yes.
I hope you're going to create some T-shirts as well.
Yeah, that might be a great idea. So I promise to explain how we arrived at the conclusion that it's people that are missing.
Yes.
And if you would go to the next slide. So I for many years and off and on, right, depending on how my work schedule was, I've asked the question, why is progress in the data space so slow? And after all, I mean, some of the successes are so big and apparently so repeatable. Why are organizations having trouble picking up on that and copying the success? And by the way, I'm not the only one who's thinking about this, right? Lots of people are thinking about this, but over the last several years, I've had the ability, I've had the blessing, the good fortune, whatever we want to call it, to work with lots and lots of people on some aspect of this problem or another. And so I'm not going to go through this slide, but many people listening will have heard of the Leaders Data Generation, or excuse me, the Leaders Data Organization. And so there's a group, so see some of the names there that have worked on sort of building a network to help senior executives understand the importance of data going forward. And you see, I have a study group with Roger and Diego and on data science, and John Ladley and I have worked on the value of data management and so forth. And I've been extremely lucky as well to work with two of the best editors in the world on, sort of formulating these ideas and articulating them in ways that regular people and senior executives can understand. So call out to Courtney Cashman and Allie McDonald here. And then finally, to try these things out with our clients. And look, the proof is in the pudding. So this review has been going on for a long time. Finally, in 2020, some real results crystallized themselves. And I used a technique called force field analysis. Force field analysis recognizes that nothing in life is simple. There's a lot of factors that are going on. We have some factors that are pushing things in the data space along, and we have others that are holding them back. And force field analysis balances those factors, and so the results are really stem from work in mostly in 2020 to develop and socialize and these force fields. And so, if you could go to the next slide, the first thing that I want to point out is there is lots of really good news in terms of progress, and the fact of the matter is data science works, right? And it has been proven and there are lots and lots of studies out there, lots and lots of projects that have made it into, right, so people can see them, kind of thing. And similarly, data quality done properly works and has been proven and those case studies are out there. Right. So, I know there's a lot of interest in the latest AI algorithm and so forth, but if we never make another advance in the algorithms, we just, use the stuff that's already been proven in, we will change the world for the better in ways that, in 15 or 20 years will be unrecognizable, right? That's not as saying, well, don't keep pushing on the AI algorithms. Mm-hmm. But now, look, there's plenty of stuff that doesn't work, and there's plenty of hype and so forth. So another bit of good news is the number of qualified data scientists are growing. And many technologies are up to task. Okay. Now, we have lots of problems, and sort of a summary is our organizations, including who we got doing the work, the culture around it, the structure that we're working in, and so forth. Organizations are unfit for data. They were designed for the industrial age, and a lot of things about data and the way we derive value from data are different. And the issues are wide ranging and they're tough. Silos get in the way of data sharing. There's no question about it. And while a lot of things in data add value as they work left to right across an organization, we manage up and down, and silos get in the way. No question about that. Culture gets in the way. I don't know, since I've been working on this, I've always heard, well, just change the culture. It's easy, just change the culture. Well, it's not easy. Another thing that gets in the way is just this confusion about how you manage data and technology. And too many organizations have subordinated data to their information technology organization. and it has hurt both. Okay, but the number one, the primary, the most important reason that we're not moving faster is that regular people, and to me, you know, a regular person is just anybody without data in their titles. They are missing in the data program. I mean, and just want to reinforce this. What's missing in the data program are people, regular people. We got plenty of people with data in their titles in those programs. We do not have near enough regular people in those programs, and it's not like we sort of need a few. We need lots and lots. Oh, thank you, Deanna, for saying that. So, you know, look, there's going to be a few who resist, but as many as possible, right? We want to make this data generation inside the company, inside a government agency, and in nonprofits, and in people's personal lives, as large and as diverse as possible. Now, I want to add one more thing, and the really, really good news is everybody can do something. Okay, everybody can do something, and the biggest thing getting in the way at the individual level is fear, and so now, by the way, I mean, we in the data space, I mean, we still have our data science projects to run, and we still have our quality programs, and we still have to do architecture, but to make those programs far more effective, we need to include, Deanna, I think you said everyone, right? Okay, that is spot on. So, okay, so this is the results of my study. If you go to the next slide, I just want to build on this a little bit. So I went through this formal program of force field analyses and so forth, but there's lots of other signs that point to people. And so you can, so I've listed a bunch here, but H.G. Wells, about 1950. Sorry, I can't get the exact year, but he made this really interesting quote. He said, "The time will come when statistical thinking is as necessary for efficient citizenship as the ability to read and write." And so I think that time has certainly come for citizenship. It's also come for people inside companies. This is the thrust of the data generation. Some other things that point to people. So we've known for a long time that the essential roles of data creators and data customers in quality. I mean, you simply can't figure out what's most important unless customers speak up, and you simply can't get to the root causes of errors unless creators and customers get together, and then creators go find them. Go find those root causes and make them go away. And we've known about the essential role of provocateurs in getting things started, in breaking the status quo. We've known these things for a long time. I think last time I was on your show, I mentioned about data and human empowerment.
Yeah.
And what I was really tapping into was you see somebody who was afraid, they didn't want to try it, and they do a little bit, and the great joy they get in completing an improvement project or finding and eliminating the root cause of a problem. For a long time, we searched around for what's the analogy of this joy. And the best analogy we have is when kids, when they're 5 or 6 or 7 or right in that age, they learn to ride a bike, and they've had the training wheels on for a while and this and that, but they've been kind of scared, and their mom and dad and their other relatives are sort of riding in the back and holding the seat and so forth. And then all of a sudden they go, right? And you can just see it. I mean, the kids are insufferable for a couple of days, right? Oh, look what I did. So now I can ride with one hand, and I think I'm ready to go with no hands, and right. But there it is just a tremendous joy, and you see that in the faces of people when they join the data generation, because they have done something that they weren't sure they could do. They've used data. They've made things better. Okay, and I mean, I'll just continue this list. The data science process. There's lots of different versions of it, 5 steps or 7 steps or whatever it is. But they all start with understand the problem, and they all end with implementation, kind of thing. And no data scientist, I don't care how brilliant they are, can have a deep understanding of the problem unless they're working with regular people. And they certainly can't implement anything unless they've got the buy-in of regular people. So not getting these people to join the data generation.
And that's spot on, because that's one of the most likelihoods of failure for data science projects, when they don't have the context and the involvement of the business side and the regular people in the company.
Look, I think that's just a great example of the last bullet item here. But so we've been talking about data management. I don't know, but certainly since I've been around doing it, and I bet people talked about it get closer to the business, get closer to the business, get closer to the business. And frankly, too many of our brethren have ignored that, that mantra kind of thing too consistently. The last point I want to cite, is I use this term, strategy 101 or management 101 or civics 101, or kind of the things that you would have in the first level course in something. And so in if there were a class called business transformation 101, it would start with get everyone involved, right? And it doesn't matter what it was, a quality transformation, digital transformation, on and on, right? So we in the data space, we view data and the benefits it brings as transformative. Then we simply must get everyone involved. Okay. And so taken together, these observations and the force field analysis just reinforce one another, and reinforce Deanna's note that we've got to get everyone involved. Okay. So by the way, we say everyone. I mean, not everyone's going to join. There's going to be some naysayers. We're going to encounter a lot of resistance.
Right.
But aspirationally, it should be everyone. Okay. I think I have one more slide.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So I've been playing. This has been forming in my head for a good long while, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, and to me, I am so excited about this. People who know me know I am always an optimist, right? But I'm even more optimistic than before. There is something so cool, so profound, so refreshing, and frankly, so hopeful in this notion that in the tech-obsessed world that we live in, and all the focus on that it is people who really matter. Okay, so
I'm all on board with the data generation. I think that's brilliant. I agree with your message. I was wondering, I had a couple of questions, and yes, I agree. Everybody should be involved in these projects and in the whole data sphere, really, for things to work. But why do you think it's hard to get everyone involved? Because it's not, if you just come with the desire, it's not enough. Why do you think it's so hard to get people on board? Is it because it's something new? Are they, like you said, afraid of data because they don't understand it, so they need to be educated about it? Or what do you think it is?
Well, I mean, are you asking me that from the point of view of somebody who's trying to advance a data program inside their company?
Yeah, I think exactly any type of data program, but even as a citizen, I feel maybe some people, when it comes to data, they just want to skip it because they are afraid, because they don't understand it, it's foreign to them, and they'd rather not.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about fear, and we have to acknowledge fear, but I want to start with the easy thing. And my observation about so many data programs is they're the new kids on the block, right? And they're very, very concerned about sort of making their bones, being accepted, right? And so what they decide to do is they decide to turn inside, right? And say, okay, well, right, we're running a governance program. What tool can we put in place that will do something?
Mm-hmm.
Or why would anybody trust me as a freshly minted data scientist? I'm going to have to prove I can do something first. And the data teams turn inside, right? And they themselves are fearful of engaging people. But and that is a key thing. So when you say, why is it so hard? The first thing is, it's impossible if you don't ask,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is impossible if you don't ask. And if you're going to ask, and by the way, I encourage everybody to do so, but then you have to be ready to answer the first question, which is going to be, great, what do you want me to do? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. I mean, and by the way, this is not, some complicated multi-dimensional game of chess or anything like that. It's sort of thinking one step in advance. And so in data quality, the answer to that is look, there's two really important roles. There's the role of the creator and the customer. And most people, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I'm doing those things. Well, we want you to step into those roles in the following way, right? And most people go, so okay, well, that's great. What's in it for me? And right, and then the answer is, well, you're going to get better data. You're a geologist, but you spend half your time doing this mundane data stuff. Suppose your job was a full-time geologist, and you spent less time on data, and so a large number of people then are going to go, yeah, I can wrap my head around that kind of thing. I can join that. I can try being a customer and a creator. We hold my hand. Yeah, I'll hold your hand while you get started. So that and so we can give a similar answer about data science or a similar answer about architecture, right? I just find that most people want to be involved when asked and given a reasonably sized task. Okay. So look, within companies, I mean, that is step one. Let me crystallize it in a different way. If you're starting a data program, you're starting a project, the first question you should ask is, well, who do we need to get involved? And the second question is, and how do we do that? And how do we do that right from the very beginning? George, this may be more than you asked, but I recently saw, it's a great article on digital transformation, and it was from it's really very senior and sort of started, formulate your strategic objectives and then do all this technical stuff and change the processes. And the last stuff was, engage people. Okay.
The last one.
But by the way, engage people is not included in a lot of them, but it should have been the first one.
Mhm.
Okay, it should have been the first one, and some people are say, well, look, we want to see if we can use some technology to improve this process. We want to bring more data to it. Are you willing to help? And well, most people will be skeptical, right? Well, can you tell me more about that? Well, yeah, here's what we're trying to do, and why, and here's why we need your help, right? And the answer can be, well, we don't understand the process well enough, kind of thing. We don't work on the process. I think there's something that like when we talk about doing these steps, I mean, if you don't do them, you're sort of not treating people properly either, right? People have a right to be involved in decisions and directions that affect their lives and their work.
Absolutely. There's less resistance, right? If you do involve them. What do you think, Diana?
No, absolutely. So in every initiative, people are the key. And when people are not on board, then that initiative is to fail in most of the cases. And yes, we talk about changing processes, changing technology, changing organizational structures. But if we don't take people on board and get their buy-in and their input, then we just plan and try and hope that it's going to be a success. And
and fail.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So too much stuff in our business treats people as part of the problem. Right. So,
Yes.
like they're the wetware. We got to deal with the wetware.
Yes, exactly. Because they resist when they're confronted with new things. People resist, but that is a normal reaction of the humans. And in my opinion, and not only in my opinion, resistance is actually good because it makes decision makers plan a little bit better. Now,
and engage them,
yes,
right?
yes.
And bring them in. So
From the start. From the start.
Exactly
not
right.
At the end when all the decisions have been made. And you made a great point when you said give people a reasonable task or something that is not overwhelming them, reasonable goals. I have a question though. You said that we can motivate people by telling them that they're going to get better data. And I think that for some of the people who don't have data in their names, it isn't enough, or they don't understand what it means to get better data. And I was just wondering, and I think this is a challenge in every initiative in general. How can we motivate people? How can we actually tell them what's in it for them, but to be something really that really matters to them?
Right. So look, I don't think you can tell people what's in it for them. Right. I mean, it's kind of like, well, Deanna, I want you to do this. Let me tell you how great it's going to be for you. You have to decide how it's going to be great for you. Right. So I can put you in a place where we can have a discussion. And so, you may look at that and go, okay, well, I'm not so sure that's a really good idea, but if it works, I'll get promoted, kind of thing.
That works. Yeah. That's a good incentive.
Okay. Now, other people aren't worried about, getting promoted, but I started with this example about everybody I know has always known a better way to do things. Right. Well, are you interested in trying that way out? Kind of thing. And some people are, no, I still like, and by the way, I mean, there's always going to be people who want to sort of complain, and sit on the sidelines. But we have to put things in front of people in a way that they can decide what's in it for them, right? Not sort of us forcing it down their throat. Okay. And I think we also have to realize this. So data is threatening. Okay. As for some people, the other thing is, well, look, I mean, the world is moving on. Data's in the future. If you don't have to join, but your employability is going to go down. Okay. And or some people it may be, look, you're in the last 4 years of your career, but you can leave a legacy that nobody else can leave. And and so people's motivations, I mean, people have got to decide for themselves what's in it for them. I started with the grandmother, right? And so the grandmother just may simply want her grandkids to get a better education than her kids did, okay, kind of thing. And so people get to this, or on the other hand, she may not, be on a fixed income and she doesn't want to see her taxes go up, right? Whatever it is, right? People get to decide these things by themselves, and it's messy. The thing is, it's a whole lot less messy than trying to convince them on the back end.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Tom, in order for people to decide and come to these conclusions, would you want to provide them with different options, or just sort of a blank statement as to what do you see that you're providing, and then they should derive those benefits themselves?
Well,
or should you provide them with a list of, we think you would benefit from at least one of these bullet points here?
Yeah. So look, I think the spirit of engaging customers is listening first and talking second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. There was a book that was pretty popular, I don't know, 20 years ago, called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the habits was seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so I would do the best I could in following that habit in engaging people, right? Start by, look, we're in the data space. Here's some stuff we're trying to do. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about how this would affect your work? Can we talk about what would be, is this something you could get behind? Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Petri here is mentioning that maybe one difficulty, one challenge for not being able to get everybody on board, it's about targets not being aligned, and also awareness to what's needed for that transformation money, data, people, process, I guess IT.
Oh yeah, I mean, look. I mean, transformation is brutally difficult. Right? I think that another thing that just makes this so difficult is there is an incredible naivete on the part of a lot of data people and digital transformation people about how hard getting a new idea into a company is. And you read a lot of the digital transformation stuff. It's almost like step 1, fall in love with technology. Step 2, open process. Step 3, insert new technology. Step 4, deal with the wetware. Like it's a recipe for failure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. George, I mean, let's just build on it. I mean, as much as anything, data is the fabric of an organization. Right.
Absolutely.
Something starts over in marketing and it wins its way to sales and it wins its way to operations and it wins its way to finance. And then it loops back to market research. And so there's a lot of people that you kind of have to bring on board in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. And C. Luanga had a question here. What's the role of the data provocateurs in recruiting members of the data generation in their organizations?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the idea of the provocateur is they are the first people in their organization to carve a different path, right? And so they may be the first person to say, okay, I think we can improve this process, or I think we can improve quality here. And they get a little bit of data, they get a little bit of data and then make that change. And a lot of people are attracted to provocateurs. And as provocateurs sort of sell their ideas, some, not everybody, but some people join in and are subtly recruited into the data generation in that fashion.
And with the aim of recruiting everybody, is there a particular group of people that you should start with first, or a particular, I don't know, personality, or a a particular segment of the organization or a business unit, or it doesn't matter? You just throw a blank canvas.
So look, I've thought about that question in lots and lots of different ways over the years, and so far every insight I've had has turned out to be wrong. So I look, what I think though is I think that in any organization there's a few people who are sort of willing to take the lead, and then there's this group, and who's going to be in the group is hard to predict, who just need a little help. Okay. And I've never been good at predicting who that was going to be, and I've never been good at predicting who the people on the back end who are going to try to sabotage the effort are going to be either. So maybe some people who understand human psychology better than me, like Deanna, will have a better answer to that question. But I'll tell you, no, I mean, I think we ought to cast a wide net.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we ought to cast a wide net, and there's nothing wrong with in the first round asking 100 people, and if five show up, I mean, it's easy to view that as 95 failures, but it's really 5 successes, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, that is my best advice.
Regarding the data generation, so the people that don't have data in their title, do you believe that they need some training, that they need to be educated? Because as you said several times, people, when they see data, they just look over it and they just run away because, I don't know, a course in the university for statistics didn't work well. So do you think that they need to be taught or trained?
So the general answer to your question is yes, of course they do, and go back to the quote from the guy in the 50s, right? So, his name is escaping me right now, but the ability to work with data is as critical now as the ability to read and write. People who can't work with data are disadvantaged, and they disadvantage their companies as well, right? So yeah, I mean, they need to learn. I kind of don't like the expression of they need to be educated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Yep.
like there's something.
I didn't know how to say it, so yes, I cringed a little bit when I said it like that.
Right. So I think that is and you see in some cases when people start getting into this, they demand it. They demand the training, and they push on their organizations hard. But this training thing, I mean, like the education challenge of our generation is certainly going to be getting everybody up to let's just call it 6th grade data speed. I mean, I don't know exactly what that is, but it's going to require an enormous effort and a collaboration of public schools and private schools and companies and so forth. Okay. And people are going to learn in different ways. There's a lot of people who learn by doing, right? And there's a lot of people who want to be sort of just in time training kind of thing, a bit here. What do you want me to do? Oh, well, no, I meant, what do you want me to do this afternoon? We'll talk about tomorrow, kind of thing, right? So, yes, it's going to be a massive effort. One last thing about that. I don't think anybody can use the excuse, I don't know how to do this, right? There are so many things that anybody can do. They may be afraid to do them, right? But they can jump in, and just like the grandmother showing up at the school board that we talked about, she didn't take a class called pushing back on the school board, right? She
Yes,
screwed up on her courage, and stood up and did that.
Oh, I love that.
Is there one thing that you think it's easy enough for anybody to do, that maybe that's the first thing that they should go ahead and do it, even though they might be afraid of doing it?
Well, so look, last time I was on your show, we talked about something called the Friday afternoon measurement.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. I mean, anybody can do the Friday afternoon measurement. Now, it does require, I think our video is 2 minutes and 54 seconds on that. So 2 minutes and 54 seconds worth of training to, to be able to do that. But that is a great place to start. A second great place to start is one of the things that a lot of people experienced during COVID was they went to, the organizations did some digital transformation. And so, if you needed a light blue spray paint, you could sort of query the database at your favorite hardware store. And, so we got 4 cans of that. So you can drive and pick it up. And then all too frequently, right, you got there and the cans of paint weren't there, kind of thing. Right.
Yep.
And so one thing you could do is not just walk away in fury, not just go look for the next door. You can go to the manager, right? And you can look him or her in the eye and say, look, here's what's on the app. Here's what's on the shelf. This can't happen, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we are way, way too tolerant as in all our personal and professional lives of bad data. And calling it out and stepping up and demanding better is another great way to start.
Absolutely. You would think that they would hear it, often enough from disgruntled customers that they themselves would take it up the chain and go back to their company and say, do something about it, get on board onto the data generation. We need to change this.
I'm particularly fascinated with this one about not having the paint in. Was from a company's perspective, if they're making the mistake of saying there's paint when there's not, there's also making the mistake of saying there's none when there is. And so what do you do in that case is you send your customer to a different store, kind of thing. You lose the revenue and you create an opportunity for your customer. Now this isn't to say you shouldn't be pursuing these apps. And so these apps can be great, right? But they've got to work. And you as a customer, if they don't, right, there is a better, you can get mad anyway, but there is not just walking away and not just doing a Yelp review, right? Making yourself heard in a constructive way is a second great way for people to start. And I love this question because this is, first of all, it's about empowerment. And, we talk about empowerment in corporations and, those with power should pass it on. And it just doesn't happen. People empower themselves. And so, there have never been as many great opportunities to empower yourself as there are right now.
Mm-hmm. Tom, when you talk to decision makers in organization and share them this idea, what is their reaction?
So look, I mean, we're rolling out this concept of the data generation, now, but in all my, consulting, we focus on, number one, getting people on board, right? Getting everybody lined up as a customer and a creator on board as step one. Right, in advice to CDOs and the people who are supporting them, and almost everybody realizes the essential reality in it and the essential notion that this is the way to go. Now they realize it's not going to be easy, right? Because you have to get if you have 500 people in your organization, you have to change 300 minds, and if you have 100,000, you got to change a lot of minds. But no, this notion that people need to be on board, almost everybody gets, and I think it's even easier for people who don't have data in their thoughts. So, they know what it takes to get a new idea in a company.
Absolutely. People first.
People. So
All right, Tom. We're coming to an end here. Thank you so much for being on the show the second time. We hope we'll have you again the third, fourth, fifth time as well. You
There's so
always
much
have
to talk about.
gold to offer, and I'm so happy to be hearing about this new concept of the data generation. And I think this is really transformative.
Yes, and the name sounds very good. It's very powerful and very suggestive. I wanted to add that if anyone wants to connect with Tom, if you haven't already, LinkedIn is a great way to do that. His website is dataqualitysolutions.com. dataqualitysolutions.com. And Tom also has a book called Getting in Front of Data: Who Does What.
right.
Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing so much of your insight, so much of your experience. It's very enlightening, and yes, key point that we discussed today. And I think the idea really came across. You explained it beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on, and I look forward to the next time.
So do we. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.